Hello and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is Saturday. It is the weekly wrap-up. Today we're going to call this the No News Wrap-Up because I've got a lot of no news to be telling you. Well, I want to thank everybody who sponsored the Prepared Mind efforts over on Patreon. You guys rock. And for everyone on YouTube, come on over to Patreon. Cost $2 whole a month to get videos, updates, ads, news stories, referrals, everything we do over there. $2 a month, not a big deal. Anyways, let's get into the weekly wrap-up, right? More on the preparedmind.club later. Anyways, the weekly wrap-up. No news. It was such a snoozer of a week, but every time I turned around, I was hearing big frickin' news. But it didn't affect anything. There's no marching in the streets. The lights are still on. The banks are open. Wall Street is yawning. The politicians are acting ridiculous, right? To start with, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's back to shooting her lips off and doing tweets, arguing with people about the merits of socialism. Isn't she supposed to be in trouble? I mean, didn't she get in trouble for, misappropriating, hiding, stealing, squandering election funds? Basic illegal activity? Oh, no, that's fine. Go ahead, just keep doing your political thing, right? Well, okay, so that's not really big news, apparently, because we'd rather hear her just say ridiculous shit. So let's move on. Since '09, or thereabouts, China has been lying about their gross domestic product. In other words, they've been lying about how productive their country is. Not, a tenth of a percent or a percent, trying to get it up a little bit higher. It's to the tune of 14%. 14%. That is a huge number they've been lying about. Holy shit. All over the news. I wonder if you even heard about it. Our country, we want to grow our country, 3% a year? That's what they want? Growth, GDP growth, gross domestic product. That's goods and services, manufacturing, agriculture, mining, everything. We want to see 3%. They've been 14% down. That is massive. Massive. And on top of that, China has urged its banks this week to loan money out. Get money out there. Because why? Because their economy is slowing down. Their economy is on the brink of recession if it's not already there. We can't trust them any more than we can trust the United States government to give us the truth. Right? They lie about everything. They change numbers. They change accounting systems. They change factors. Oh, everything's fine, they say. I don't think so. But China is definitely no different. And for everybody that says, oh, China's going to run the world, they're coming. They're bigger than the U.S., and they're gonna be. Well, the only thing they've got bigger than the U.S. is debt. China is so far in the hole in order to get themselves where they're at. They had to catch up with the rest of the world. Well, they did it in record time, and they did it with record debt. And now they're having to go to their version of quantitative easing. They're going to try changing the term on this, by the way. They don't want to use the same term, because then they'll be stuck having to explain, apologize. Why are we doing this again? They'll come up with some new fancy terminology. They like to create new buzzwords for the media to use and for it to spill on out into public discourse, right? Like this term vetting. You remember when there was no such thing as vetting? In fact, vetting, that was going out in a fast car. Now vetting is making sure you really check stuff. Better vet that information and vet that candidate. This comes out about and around and concurrent with the expansion, the explosive growth of fake news coming out of CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, and yes, even dear old Fox News, making up bullshit. And we're supposed to worry about vetting stuff. Anyways, they're going to come up with a new term for quantitative easing because they don't want to use that one again. They'll come up with some fancy, colorful word that makes it sound like it's been hammered with leprechaun gold, and it's just going to shine and sparkle. Anyways, China, not looking good, slipping into recession. Bad news this week, and you won't hear about it. It's quiet. Well, it's not just China. The ECB announced they're printing cash. When you screw things up, they printed cash back in 08, 09, 10, 11, 12. They just printed cash, and everything was supposed to recover. They just needed to give it a good juice, a good goosing, didn't they? Well, what happened? Nothing. Over in Europe, they didn't even get to quantitative tightening, which is a way of saying contracting the money supply, making people pay and buy their garbage, the bank's garbage. Well, guess what? They didn't even get that far in Europe, and they're going to go back into quantitative easing printing. So when you mess up, you just print some more. What happens if they mess up again? Do they print less? Well, if printing less is what fixes things, why are they printing more now? So their answer, and it always is, and historically always has been, when there's a problem, you print more money. And you just throw it out there. Print the money. Count the money, right? That's what they do. That's what they're good at. And every single time it has the same result. The economy fails to greater and lesser degrees, and that currency just slips into history as being absolutely worthless crap. Okay, so, we just talked about China. Japan never quit quantitative easing, by the way. We talked about Europe. What about the good old United States of America? Well, the Federal Reserve, right, they did quantitative tightening for about 1 year. About 1 year. They did quantitative easing, TARP money, bailouts, plunge protection team, right? Just ramming cash into the stock market to hold the value up. And guess what? It didn't make it a year before they put the brakes on that. Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve, he's all but just stopped that train, stopped it. It's time to stop, right? They can't just flip a bitch and turn and take that train the other way. They've got to slow it down, stop it, assess, and then go back the other way. What do I mean by that? In the United States, you bet, they're going to have to do some new form of quantitative easing. Helicopter money, where they just fly over and just sprinkle us with that magic pixie dust that's supposed to fix everything that never has. You want to fix stuff? I've got the formula. Everyone says, John, you need to offer some answers. Or at least a lot of you do. Here's some answers. Cut taxes. Cut government workers. Cut spending. Just cut spending. Cut spending. Stop going into debt. It's that easy. Cut taxes, cut spending, cut the size of government. Let the people breathe. Get that government boot off of our necks. I just finished doing my taxes, and I'm not happy with it. I could be a whole lot happier, right? I'm glad that Trump tax cut was there, but I could be a whole lot happier if it was a lot better. And I would be a whole lot happier if I knew there was not a deficit this year, but rather a surplus. But there's no way in hell we're going to have a tax surplus. You want to know why? Because tax revenue is dropping in the United States of America. At the city, county, state, and federal government levels, tax revenues are dropping. Why? Because those rely on economic activity to drive them. New home sales means increased property values, means new higher assessment levels. Lots of good jobs, lots of good paying jobs. People are out spending cash, and the counties collect and the states collect sales tax. Right? Everything's good. People are making more money, so the state gets more income tax. On the federal level, everyone is doing great. The whole nation is chugging along, and it gets more income tax. Well, guess what? Tax revenues are dropping. What does that tell you? Right? You need to be prepared. We need to be prepared because there is a shitstorm coming right now. And when it's finally announced, it's going to be like that day back in 08, just prior to the presidential election, when they kind of came out and said, you know what? We got some kind of a crisis going on, right? Do you wait till you've grown a second evil head fully before you look over and go, that might be an evil head growing out my shoulder? No! As soon as you see the symptoms, the sign, right, this bump in your shoulder. You get it looked at. You figure out what's causing it and you fix it. That's not how government works. We can count on it every single time to let that second evil head, to let whatever's going wrong go wrong 100%, and then go, uh-oh, we got a problem. We better try and do something about it. Let's print a bunch of money and throw it at it. That'll do it. So speaking of our economy here, this week, the jobs report came out. The jobs report is where they come out and say this many new jobs were created, and see the economy's taking off, and the stimulus has worked, and the QE worked, and the quantitative tightening worked, and Trump worked, and Congress, everything's working. It's great. Well, they were expecting somewhere between 80 to 180,000 new jobs. Guess what the number was? Did you hear it? Did you catch the number on the news? Did you catch it on the internet? The number that came out was 20,000. Now, that is only 25% of the lowball figure, the lowball estimate. And again, they were hoping for 180. So if 180 was what they really wanted, well, hell, that's 1/9 of what they expected on the high end. I'm surprised that they even allowed this figure out. I'm surprised they didn't fudge it up to 40 or 50,000 just to make it look good, and then do a little apologizing. Unless it was even lower than 20,000 and they had to fudge it up to 20 just to get it, onto the charts. Absolutely incredible. Did you hear about it? This is the silent weekly wrap-up. This is the no news weekly wrap-up. They're not reporting shit. Now here's another one for you, right? And we look at this stuff every week. I do, you do, everyone does. Retail, housing, auto, manufacturing, labor, still shit. Every day I heard bad news come out, and every day I watch the stock market shrug it off. Shrug it off. Fuck it. Let's just stay up near all-time highs. Who cares about labor? Who cares about auto manufacturing? Who cares about inventories? Who cares about housing? Who cares about new car loans? Everyone cares because it all matters. And the slip slide on each of those sectors has an aggregate effect. You might go, well, I don't sell cars. I don't work on cars. I don't work in the auto industry. I'm not even associated with the auto industry. What do I care? Well, because the people who work in those industries come to your side of the world too, and they do business over here. So say you're in the housing industry, real estate, construction, development. Well, if the auto people aren't making any money, they're not buying your houses. And if you're not selling houses, then you're not buying a fucking auto. Whoops. That's how everything's interconnected. And it's not just in America, it's overseas. Overseas. Newsflash. Just popped up on my screen. Backcountry preppers got a boy coming. Alrighty. Congratulations, Vaughn. It's a boy. Okay. Back to the news. I've been talking lately about partisan war, partisan conflict, how the fight is no longer in Congress, how the fight has moved outside of Congress because Congress has taken their partisan bickering to the streets, to their congressional districts. They've been taking it out, making it known that as leftist, socialist, communist types, they need to get in everyone's face. And the Antifa types have taken it to heart. They have their little fits, their tirades, their snowflake meltdowns, their microaggression tantrums. Now, I've got a story here. There's this young man. His name is Gunnar Johansson, I believe from Florida, age 14. He went to get on a bus, and he was essentially screamed and yelled at by an anti-Make America Great person. Now, I still can't figure out how you can be an American and be against making America great. What they're against, of course, is Trump making America great again, right? Or the people making America great. They don't want America to be great. America is bad. America is evil. America is this and that, and so we need to destroy it. It makes no sense to me. Why would you crap in your own swimming pool and then jump in and take a big mouthful of it? That's what these fucking morons do. Pardon my French. Anyways, these Antifa, anti-fascist, anti-Make America Great Again types. They're not just in Congress. They're not just in colleges. This was on a school bus. And a 14-year-old. So he could have been 8th grade or he could have been a freshman. I don't know which, because I don't know which. But Gunnar Johansson, he was yelled at, and then he had his hat taken off his head. Right? That borders on assault. Well, guess what? Gunnar didn't back down. Right? The bus cam caught it. Complaints were made, and this person, like a bus assistant or a bus whatever, you know, I don't know what they are, bus nannies. Who the fuck knows who's on a bus anymore for school kids? I'm sure they have to make sure they're a sex offender before they get on there. Anyways, the bus cam caught it. And this person, they're kind of out of a job while they do their investigation, right? But, right, the hat, Gunnar's getting yelled at because of some letters on a hat. And he believes he has the right to political free speech. And I agree with him. You have a right to political free speech, right? Do I have, well, you go, well, he's not 18, he can't vote, so you don't get a right to speech. Are you kidding me? I'm not 18, so I don't have a right to drink water, eat food, breathe air. I don't have a right to move about freely. I don't have a right to pursue happiness, own property before the age of 18. Absolutely asinine to make the assumption. And it's absolutely asinine, and this is not the case. The school says we don't have a policy on that sort of thing. There's no policy that says he had to take that hat off. There's no policy there. But even if there was, why does a fucking school get to tell people what they get to wear on their clothes, or say out of their mouths, or think out of their heads? Right? The school is supposed to teach, not indoctrinate. The school is supposed to teach about our freedoms, not teach censorship. They have no problem teaching immorality. They have no problem there at all, do they? Well, guess what? Right, here we go. Right? Gunnar had his hat ripped off his head. It's another example of the partisan war that's developing. And I want to quote Mr. Johansson. Quote, stand up for what you believe in, end quote. He said that in comments about what happened. He was told to take the hat off and he argued back. The answer is no. When they try taking your rights, the answer is no. Right? This is where we're at in this country. This is what's going on. These people have lost their minds. And when it gets really bad, when the economy comes down, when we have a terror attack, when we have disruptions in food, fuel, water, anything, you name it, people are going to lose their shit. And when they lose their shit, right, violence is the response. That's why we need to be preppers with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Right? If you need help with those items, go to thepreparedmind.club. We've got a number of prepper items, including manuals and books on defense, gardening, medicine, as well as other prepper supplies that you need to have on hand anyway. Isn't it a good idea to have a first aid kit that's more than a Band-Aid and a Q-tip, right? You should have that, especially if we have an event happen. The hospital's going to be overrun by ding-dongs trying to get free medical coverage, right? And if you get hurt, you might be better off taking care of yourself, at least cleaning things up, giving yourself some first aid, right? So take a look at first aid products. Very important. Okay. Now the last item on the No News Weekly Wrap-Up. The U.S.-China trade and Xi Jinping, there's no deal. We've been being promised since December that they would come up with a deal. Because Trump threatening tariffs, that we need to have tariffs, that we need to straighten out the trade problem with tariffs because there's a trade imbalance. I agree, there's a trade imbalance and it needs to be fixed. China's not backing down, Trump isn't backing down, but every week we're promised. And on the hope of that promise, the stock market climbed out of that bear market correction that occurred in December. Right? We slid into bear market territory. And since then we've been climbing out every single week and almost every single day on hope. Oh, we're getting close. Boy, if they just get that trade deal, it's not going to change anything. Know why? Because you, me, all of America doesn't have more cash. We don't have more wealth. All we can do is get more debt to buy that same junk that's coming over. Whether an item is $1.50 or $1.70, it doesn't matter. It's junk and we don't need it. And it's junk and we don't have the money to buy it. Not en masse, not on the whole. Our system is in big heap trouble. Look out, right? That's where we're at. That's the No News Weekly Wrap-Up. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming to the Prepared Mind. We have Facebook, we have the preparedmind.club, we have Patreon, and we have YouTube. We're managing to stay out of the censorship trouble, even though they've demonetized us on every level to the maximum extent they can. And in fact, I believe Fourth Dimension, which is Kaz, he had his channel, which is doing relatively okay. It's not a giant channel. He's not like a giant threat. He's not going to go, look at how much money I made. We're going to buy a bunch of news cameras and staff, and we're going to really pump this out here. No, he's just a little guy. Just like this channel. We're just little guys out here talking. But they shut him down. They demonetized him, right? Right, so that he can't grow, so that he can't get bigger, so that he can't spend money on equipment. Right, that's what they do. That's what the idea is. Meanwhile, for talking about the same news stories, but with a leftist perspective, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, they all get fully monetized videos talking about the worst crap on the planet, including how to put a prophylactic on a banana for kindergartners. That's right, these people are sick and twisted, and they're taking everything down. So what is your safety? What is your life vest in this turbulent ocean of crap? It's called prepping. Thank you guys for sponsoring, supporting, being here, growing, sharing through your comments. You guys rock. I'll talk to you again very soon. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Bye-bye.